Hey, girls who code Lincoln. This is Alisa, and I am about to record my first ever tutorial. I'm very excited about it. And I am going to show you how to make a cat function. We have been talking about shapes in Club a lot and functions and how we can manipulate shapes with functions. If you have not watched the videos that Grant made last week, he made 2 videos about shapes. I would definitely suggest that you watch those first. That knowledge is going to be pretty dang handy for this tutorial. And so what we did in Club last week is we practiced making a tree with shapes, so manipulating shapes, their colors and sizes, putting them together to make a tree. And then we also created a tree function together so that we could replicate that tree in all sorts of sizes, that we could change the color and do all sorts of stuff. So shapes are fun, functions are fun, and I love cats. So here we go. I'm going to show you what we're going to make. It's a really basic cat head. So here it is. We just have a few shapes going on here. We have 1 circle and 2 triangles. The cat function that I'm going to show you how to make, I've called cat function. And it has a few different parameters. So we have size, so we can change the size of the cat head as a whole. We can set the ear color and the head color. So I'm going to call the cat function down here. Hey, cat function, I want a size 20 cat with an ear color of aquamarine, because it's a fun color to say, and a head color of purple. There, whoa, that's a big cat. There we are. So let's just do another one, cat function. Hey, cat function, we're going to call it with a size of 10, ear color of, let's do purple ears, and head color of hot pink. There we go. That's a more reasonably sized cat head. Okay, so let's dig in. As you may know, I have not written a lot of functions in my life, and I have written very few functions in Dr. Racket. So I might go about this in a slightly different way than Grant would when he's teaching the class. And that's a really fun thing about coding, is there are a lot of different ways you can go about solving a problem. And that's wonderful. So I'm going to open up a new Dr. Racket. Here we are. And then what I like to do, so in working with shapes and trying to figure out how to make shapes relate to one another, are they next to one another, is one above, is one below, there are a lot of different terms built into Dr. Racket that we can use, and I don't have those memorized. So what I like to do is open up, if you go, so you're in Dr. Racket, we printed some of these out last week, but if you go to the help menu and go to Racket documentation, whoop, I like to keep that open right alongside what I'm working on. And that way, as I'm writing it, if I have any questions, if something isn't working quite right, here it is. It's just this nice glossary right next to me. Okay, so the cat. Here we go. First, I'm going to do what we did in Club and try to write some things down that I know about making this cat head. So here's what I know. And this is how you comment in Dr. Racket. You use these semicolons. And what that does is allows you to put some text in here that it knows isn't code. So it's just written in human language for ourselves. So what do I know? What do I know about a cat head? Oops. What I know that there will be 3 shapes. I'm going to have 2 triangles. And those triangles are going to need to sit next to one another. And they're going to need to sit above or on top of a circle. You know what, I'm gonna say above a circle. Okay, so these are things that I know. Uh-oh, Dr. Racket thinks I'm writing code. Let's clear that up. Not code, Dr. Racket. Okay, so this is what we need to accomplish. We need to create 3 shapes, 2 triangles, 1 circle, and we need the triangles to sit next to each other above the circle. Okay, now we know that we can create shapes down here, and this is kind of my troubleshooting zone when I'm working on something like this. So first I'm going to say circle and size 30 and color, solid. So here's the parameters that go into a shape, and we can look this up over here, but I think we all have this down right now. So we're going to name the shape, we're going to give it a size, we are going to say whether it's solid or outline, and then we're going to select the color. And there it is. I have my circle. And then triangles. Again, name the shape, put in the size. I'm going to say solid as well, and color's purple. There we go. And just to review, the number here for a circle refers to the radius, which starts at the middle of the circle and goes to the outside. The size on other shapes, like a triangle, refers to the full length of the side. So that's why circle size is half the size of a triangle, but they look like they're the same size. It's because the circle input for size refers to half of its width, not the whole width. Okay, so this doesn't look like a cat head. So we're going to need to put these shapes in relationship to one another. First thing I want to tackle is these 2 triangles next to one another, like the ears. So I want to look up in here and look up, I remember that there is something we can do called beside. So I'm going to I'm going to go ahead and search in the Racket manual for beside, and here it pops up right at the top, beside. And it's loading. Here we are. So here's what it has to tell me. Beside. It constructs an image by placing all of the argument images in a horizontal row aligned along their centers. That's not the clearest way to say that, but I think we can look at this picture here and see, okay, so if I say beside, and then I list a bunch of shapes, it's going to line them up left to right, and let's go ahead and see what order they come in. So the top shape listed is going to be on the far left. Fine. So now I'm going to try to put 2 triangles next to one another, beside one another. So I'm going to say beside, and then first triangle, and I'm going to say 30, solid, brown. It's a brown cat. And then I'm going to come down here and say the other triangle. Triangle, 30, solid, brown. All right, let's see what happens. There they are. There's some very nice cat ears. We could copy this. Maybe we decided we don't want brown. Maybe we want them larger. Let's say 60. And we want them to be, I don't know, hot pink, because this is a really exciting cat. There we go. Okay, I like those ears. So now, I think this is a pretty good way to make the ears. Now, we need to set the ears above the head, which is a circle. How are we going to do that? I'm just going to go back here and I'm going to look for above. So you can search. Actually, that's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to do Control F and say above. Oh shoot, I did that all. That's not the best way. Here we go. Above. And here it is again. It's popping up. First thing, above. What does the manual have to tell me about above? It constructs an image by placing all of the argument images in a vertical row aligned along their centers. So here we go, top to bottom. So, and it starts with gray and ends with black. So the first thing I list is going to go above the other thing. So the way that the text and the code is going to look is the same order as it's going to look when the image appears, which is really handy. So I'm going to say above. And then what do I want on top? I want the ears. So I'm just going to copy this. So there's our ears. What do I want the ears to go above? And that's a circle. A circle. Let's say size, let's make it bigger than the ears. Say size 80. Oh, that's going to be much bigger. Well, let's try it. Let's see how it looks. Solid and purple. Let's see what happens. There we go. Hey, we're getting close. So now we have a circle and we have 2 ears on top, but it looks pretty weird. It kind of looks like a head with this pink bow on it, right? Because ears are supposed to connect right here to the head. They don't just sit on top like a weird book, like a weird mountain book on your head. So, geez, how are we going to solve this? I don't know. What else can we find out? So I'm going to look around in here in our references and see, we know that we can overlay images. If you remember from last time, we were overlaying things. I'm just going to put in overlay. Overlay, circle, 80, solid blue, and circle 100 solid orange. Let's see what this looks like. There we go. So this is what we can do with overlay. And I know a lot of us have practiced with this one. So what it's going to do is it's going to put the first shape that we write on top, and then everything else is going to go below. Okay, so how can we use this for the ears? Let's see what happens if we just say overlay. Oh, we already have above. Let's see. What else can we do? I don't think overlay is going to be quite right here, because see how it's lining up one circle directly on top of another? We're going to need something a little more interesting. So I'm going to look around in here. My goodness, look at this. Place images and align. This looks like something Elsa was trying to do in club that very first week. So not just placing the images one on top of one another, but doing something here where we're doing some overlapping. Okay, so I'm looking around. What could work for our ears? I'm going to look up X, Y. So we've talked about this a little bit in club. The XY refers to axes. So the x-axis goes left to right, and the y-axis goes up and down. Probably done that in math class. Here's what I'm looking for. I want an overlay function, just like here, overlay, but that lets us move things around a little bit. So here we have this really neat thing. This is overlay XY. Let's look at how this works. It allows us to overlap the images and move them in relation to one another if we want. So let's give this a shot. Let's take this code. So we know we do want the ears above the circle. But what if we say overlay XY? And then between the two things you have relating to one another, what you do is you put in some numbers here. I'm just going to completely throw in some numbers here. I have no idea what this is going to look like. So 10 is going to refer to the x-axis, 30 is going to refer to the y-axis. Let's see what happens. Yikes. That's not great. But but we're doing something here. We're moving forward. So what we're doing, so now we have these two sets of things relating to one another in a way that I like. But I would like the ears to lay behind the head. What do you think about that? So that way, we won't see the bottom line of the triangle. It'll be kind of hidden. So I'm going to see, well, yes, I think we do have something called underlay XY. All right, I like this. So I can keep everything in the same order. So I'm going to try underlay XY. I'm going to copy this code. Let's see what happens. And this is how we solve problems in coding. We make educated guesses, we look around, and then you just start trying things out. Hey, I think we're getting much closer. So now we have the ears sitting behind the head. I like this. But our numbers aren't right. What are we going to do about that? So let's see what happens if we put in a negative number here. I kind of like the height here. I like how much the ears are sticking out. I'm going to try a negative number and see if it moves them in the opposite direction on the x-axis. Well, there it did. It's getting closer, isn't it? So now we know a positive number seems to shift the ears to the left, whereas a negative number is shifting them to the right. And paste the code again. I'm going to try 15. Oh, really close. I'm going to paste it again and try 20. Hey, I like it. I like this. We're getting somewhere. So this should be 20, and then we just want to move them down a little bit. What do you say we drop this number to 25? Let's see how that looks. Hey, we did it. Great. All right. Now we have all the code needed to make a cat head. I think this is a fine looking cat head. So now I say we make this into a function. How are we going to do that? We're going to want to go up here to our definitions area. This is where we define things. I'm going to say define cat, then I'm going to paste this in there. What does this do for us if we hit run? What we've done is defined something called cat with those design instructions. So now down here I can write cat. What's going to happen? Boom. There's our totally awesome cat head. That's very exciting. But what we want to make is a function in which we can input some different parameters, throwing out some fancy coding language here, and then change the cat. Because right now all I can do is recreate this exact same cat. I don't want to do that. I want to make a huge orange cat or a tiny green cat. I want to have more control over how this cat works. So we have cat right here. I'm going to keep this here. It's a great handy reference. And I am going to make this full screen now because our reference has served its purpose. So how are we going to do this? I'm going to give it a slightly new name. I'm going to call this one catfunction. Because don't forget, you can't call things the same name. Dr. Racket won't stand for it. Okay, so what are we going to do to make this a function? Oh, first of all, I'm going to change how the code's sitting a little bit for myself. So we're going to put, do you remember that image that Grant showed of the shapes marching in a line in parentheses, and the first shape was the conductor, and the rest of the shapes were playing instruments and marching along? That's what we're making right here. So this is our function area. This first thing that I've written, cat function, is the function, and afterwards is where the parameters will go that we want to be able to plug in. So it's the things that we want to be able to change about the cat, variables we can call them. So I want to be able to change the size, and I want to be able to change what I'm going to call ear color, and I want to change head color. Okay. Now, how are we going to figure out what the heck size has to do with all these numbers? So size, we know it's going to relate to these pixels here. Yikes. But what is 60 and 80 and negative 20 and 25 have to do with one another? Well, there's a lot of different ways to solve this problem. I'm going to tell you my favorite way to do it. Kind of trying to give it its own space here. Okay. Here's what I like to do. I have these numbers, 60, 60, 20, 25, and 80. Well, what's an easy number that I can use as a unit of measurement for all of these things? How about the number 10? I like the number 10. It's really easy to work with. And what is 10? How does 10 relate to 60? It's 6 tens, right? We can do that down here. Times 10 and 6. 60. There we go. What does 10 have to do with negative 20? How do they relate to one another? Well, do I have to use parentheses? I can't remember. It's 10 times negative 2, right? Oh, yeah, it wants the parentheses. There we go, negative 20. What does 10 have to do with 25? That's 10 and 2.5. There we go. So I am going to decide that size means 10. That's something we can make up. That's kind of part of the fun of coding. And I think it's a pretty nice way to handle it for this exercise. So I'm going to say size means 10. So what am I going to put here? Instead of 60, I'm going to say multiply size and 6. All right? And same with the 60. Multiply size and 6. What about this one? Multiply size and negative 2. And this one, multiply size and 2.5. And then 80 here, we're going to multiply size and 8. Whoops, got to have the space there. All right, I like this. We got rid of our numbers on their own, so now it'll all be relative. Hey look, it's our friend Grant writing to me on Slack. Okay, so now we can plug in our other parameters for this function. So ear color. Here's our triangles and our ear color. So I'm going to replace the color here with the variable ear color. I'm going to do that here too. And then what about the head color? I need to plug in the variable head color to this code here. So instead of purple as the default, I'm going to call it head color. All right. Should we see if this works? Let's see what happens. Okay, so how are we going to call our function? We're going to say its name. We're going to say, hey, cat function. Hey, cat function. And then we're going to put in a size. Yeesh, who knows? I'm going to say 10. I'm going to put in the ear color. I'm going to say hot pink. Dang, I like putting hot pink in here. And the head color, I'm going to say orange. Let's see what happens. Is it going to work? Oh my gosh, it worked. Let's try this again. Let's make sure it still works if we change the size, because we want to be able to scale this. We want to be able to make a tiny cat, and we want to be able to make a huge cat. Boom. Whoa. Huge cat. Huge cat. And then let's make a tiny one. 2. There it is. We did it. We have a cat function. All right. So, good job. I hope this was fun. We can make more elaborate cat functions. Let me find the one that I made because I love it. Okay, I called it Fancy Cat. And then there's a size, and same as before, the parameters. But see, in this one, I did a little bit more. I did some circle overlays on top of the triangles for the ears. And then I also added, where's my nose? Here we go. I added a triangle that's solid in black that's overlaid on top of the head, and I rotated it 180 degrees so it points down, just like a nose. So you can see, once we know how to put the shapes in relation to one another, once we understand how to create these variables so that everything relates So each shape relates to the other shapes in the same way, no matter how big we make the image as a whole. You can make anything. You can just keep adding details and it's a blast. Okay, thanks for watching. I can't wait to see you in club, and just write to us if there's any questions. Okay, see you later.